Well, hello again, everybody. I'm Heather Ostera, Media and Marketing Associate for the Western Stage. And we're here with Becca Browdy, our wardrobe supervisor at the Western Stage. So she's going to tell us a little bit about what she does, where she came from, and my big question is how a wardrobe department differs from a costume department. So let's start with Becca. Becca, what are some of the duties of a wardrobe supervisor?
Some of my main duties are to keep I like to use the term safety in both a physical sense and kind of a figurative sense, meaning the pieces, I keep the pieces usable and safe for the actors, meaning that they're not going to fall apart on stage doing whatever it is they're doing. And I also keep them laundered, however that needs to happen, to keep them hygienic for the actors during the run of a production.
So that means a lot of laundry and dry cleaning, is that right?
Correct. We do have laundry facilities on campus, which is very nice, and there are ways that we can go about hand washing delicate items, but there are certain things, depending on fabrics and designs and things like that, that cannot be machine washed at all, and there are other measures that we have to take until we can send them to the dry cleaners.
Okay, so take us through a typical day at work. So it's a show day, it's a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday. What does this wardrobe department, what do they have to do with the production?
So a typical day will involve myself. I'm usually the first one there, and I do that on purpose to call my crew in afterwards so that I can make sure that all of the laundry that the actors needed is done. And then once my crew are there, we set up the backstage area, whatever that means for that particular show, for the actors. And then we help the actors get into costumes, wigs, and makeup. And then we are there for the actual performance, and then after the actors are done, we help them basically take it all off and clean everything for it to be used for the next show.
So you mentioned your crew. This takes me to my next topic, some volunteer opportunities. I know that there are ways that people can volunteer their time. What can a person do if they want to be part of the wardrobe department? Yeah.
So there are a few ways in order to kind of make that happen, and you could reach out to Megan Rue, who is technically the manager of the wardrobe department as well, but she also runs the costume shop and the hair and makeup department. And then she most likely will kind of hand that information over to me, and I take anybody who is willing and interested, whether they have experience or not, in wardrobe or hair and makeup. You can either email me, or I do have a phone number as well.
Now tell us a little bit about dressers in particular. What types of skills or what can they expect to experience? They're backstage, they're in the wings. What exciting things can they do?
So for a person who has never been on a wardrobe crew before, they can expect, it's a little bit hard to describe. It's not quite the same rush that you get when you're performing yourself, but there is a little bit of a rush when you are preparing for that one big moment when your actor has to run to you and you have to, it is kind of a performance, I guess. You have to do your quick change very, very fast and get that actor back on stage looking as good as they can. But I mean, we're working in the dark. We're not the only ones backstage, so there's a lot of moving parts and things like that to take into consideration as well.
Becca, let's take it back for a moment. Let's talk about how you first got started at the Western Stage. What was your very first experience with us?
So that was a volunteer dressing project, and I had a friend that I was in school with at the time. We were in high school, and she called me after the final dress rehearsal of My Fair Lady in 2008, and she said, "Hey, We really, really, really need help still, and we open tomorrow night. I'm not sure if you're interested in this, but we could really use the help if you're, you want community service hours or XYZ. And I like jumped at the chance. It was like 10 o'clock at night, and I was like, I'm ready. Um, and that was an incredible experience. Still probably one of the biggest casts I've ever worked with, probably the most costumes I've ever worked with, but I'm a sucker for period shows and I really love My Fair Lady, so it really, really worked out.
So then, how did you get start acting? You're an actor as well. So how did you get and flip it from the backstage to the onstage?
I think I started on stage and moved backstage only because of the my like foot in the door, I suppose. I started like the real catalyst to me auditioning for things and all of that came from a theater class I took my freshman year of high school, and that was taught by Nancy Bernhard, who is also a Western Stage alum, and she's great. And she would let us know about things that were happening not only at the school but also outside of school. So what the Western Stage was doing in pack rep and things like that.
Cool. Yes, we know Nancy. We love
Mhm.
Nancy. So we've talked about volunteer opportunities. Becca, what are some tips that you would give to perhaps a new actor in order to build the best possible relationship with their wardrobe supervisor and their dressers and whoever's assisting them with their wig and makeup?
So that's also a really good question. And the very first thing I wrote down is introduce yourself. And that may seem like a given, but with the way that the Western Stage conducts its first dress rehearsals, we'll have all of the actors in one place and have the entire wardrobe crew there to introduce ourselves kind of on a preliminary basis, just so that they can at least see our faces one time, so that in the scramble of everything backstage, they at least know who to look for. Another thing I would recommend is to learn the space that you're in. And I know a lot of actors like to do this with their onstage space, but I think it's also very important with the not only the backstage space, but also your route from your dressing room to your backstage space, because we have had actors get lost before. Even though our building is not very big, um, it getting into kind of the swing of things will make just everything easier, like lessen the stress on the crew and on the actor, and also definitely bring up the things that you're concerned about. I always open it up kind of at the end of my little spiel of introducing myself to the actors of, if you have anything, a particular change or a costume that you're concerned about, please let me know, because the nature of the job is not just sewing holes back together and putting clothes on. There are kind of nuances in the dresser actor relationship that kind of you have to be sensitive towards. I recognize it's a little bit hard to become completely familiar with the text that you're working with during only tech week or just your performances, but it can make a difference.
Oh, well, since you are a staff member slash actor, what are some of your favorite moments that you've had as an actor, particularly with the Western stage? Because I know that you kind of dabble all over the peninsula, right?
Yeah, a little bit. One of my, absolute favorite moments was not a single moment, it was a couple of weeks, and that was when I was a part of my high school like drama group when our director Nancy Bernhard, she applied for our school to be accepted into the American High School Theater Festival, and that was in 2010, so 10 years ago now. And we were accepted, and this festival is it it works in conjunction with the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland, which is a huge performing arts festival, and they send all of these groups from these American high schools over to the UK to learn about theater history and see the sights and, you know, experience the theater and whatnot. I saw a West End show over there that was incredible. And it's an experience that I would not trade anything for. On in terms of the Western stage, I was lucky enough to be a part of one of the HS to JC projects in 2009, and we did a show called After Juliet, and that was super interesting. I did not know that material existed at all, and it's supposed to be kind of a continuation story of after Romeo and Juliet pass away. And that was very my character was interesting, and it presented kind of a challenge, but I also got to work with Carla Pantoja and Suzanne Burns as directors, and they were amazing. So that was also like an invaluable experience to be able to learn from them, and Donna Federico as well.
Yeah, I remember that HS to JC, just in case, because it's been a while since we've done anything with that program. High school to junior college, right? So that's kind of a bridge between students who have just come out of their high school program and are ready to get started into the junior college theater programs. So, yeah.
It was also really fun getting to like kind of poke my head in and out in The Miracle Worker last season. Really, really great to be a part of that. Justin Gordon is, you know, amazing. The entire cast was awesome.
Correct me if
And
I'm wrong, Becca, but weren't you going back and forth? You would go on stage to act, and then weren't you backstage also helping dress and being the wardrobe supervisor at the same time?
yep, and yeah, yep, and then toward like the last weekend, what makes for those who don't know what repertory refers to, is that there are kind of shows happening kind of all the time at the same time within the same theater company. So towards the end of The Miracle Worker last season was when Little Women, the musical, started to perform. So during that overlap, there is some kind of shuffling around that we need to do. We need to make sure that we have enough crew to handle both shows, and also just make sure that the actors are aware that there will be just more traffic, as it were.
And there were a lot of big skirts in both shows, so they took a lot of the hallway.
Both of them were period shows, but again, like, I love period shows so much, so it was like it was challenging to go back to back like that, but like that's why I do it.
Does loving clothes and loving fashion and being interested in, the period stuff, is that, one of the perks of getting to work in the wardrobe is you get to work with the clothes and you get to see the different designs? Is that kind of a thrill?
Certainly, and it definitely sparked my like desire to work in the costume shop for a few seasons and learn how to, like, just improving my sewing skills and things like that. I do have, I suppose, an interest in fashion, but I think more so an interest in costumes specifically, because there are theatrical costumes, even costumes that are designed for shows, that take place hundreds of years ago, aren't necessarily 100% accurate in the name of what we have to do in theater. And I love finding finding ways to, if you want to call it cheating, we call it quick rigging. What quick rigging is, it's more on the designer side of things, where the costume shop will purposefully construct items to go on and off an actor really, really fast. And that's where I work with the designers, is what they can do for both the actors and the dressers to end up making those changes happen in the amount of time in the show, but also upholding the director's and the designer's vision. Some of the things that we do to quick rig are to just add a lot of detail sometimes to kind of hide the closures and things like that. Zippers and Velcro and like little teeny tiny snap buttons are our best friends. Things that, I mean, almost nothing is left to be completely laced up ever, because that just takes so much time.
Oh, speaking of laces, I had the laces in my boots, my lace-up boots, replaced by, what's it called? Elastic. So you would never know it was black elastic, but to the audience, it looked like the lacing was all done up. So you just had to shove your foot in there.
And on the main stage, certainly, especially there's an aspect about musicals that just kind of, I don't know, encourage quick changes. Like, they just happen so much more in musicals than straight plays, and they seem to always be more intense. But the lovely thing about the main stage is that we have the orchestra pit in between the front row of audience members and the very, very edge of the stage where the actors have to stand. So when we do make those kind of quick rigging cheats like that to make things possible, Heather's right, the audience really cannot even tell sometimes.
We hope.
Right, that is the hope.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this chat, and we look forward to our next coffee table conversation. Until then, stay healthy.